Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pink Radio with Prestige. This is your girl Nicole Doss, and I am super excited for this episode because, baby, let me tell you, I am absolutely going through this very thing right now. I had to work my way through it. So, of course, I truly believe that the things that I go through are not in vain and that I go through them so that I can share with other girl bosses and for the boy bosses too who are listening. So that you know, number one, that you are not alone, but number two, that you know how to work through these things as well. We do understand that one size does not fit all. So therefore, of course, what works for the goose may not work for the gander, but at least you're able to get some ideas as to what I'm working with, what tools I've used, and then you can tweak those tools to fit your needs. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today's topic is all about boss fatigue. Some of you may have heard other things, maybe known as brilliance burnout, as well as success exhaustion. But honestly, tomato, tomato, it all means the same thing. So before we get into this particular topic, I do want to give a quick Prestige update to let you guys know that we're actually going to start recruiting and getting new members in January. So if you were interested in the Prestige Society, really interested in a membership, the membership does come with coaching as well. You pick between two different kinds of membership. So you either get access to this sisterhood where we have our own app where you get information and you're able to be part of other groups within the network, as well as either quarterly or monthly coaching. So that is all up to you as far as what your business needs are, your boss needs are, and also what fits your budget. So definitely look at theprestigesociety.com to figure out whichever works for you. And we are implementing a Refer a Boss program. So be sure to go to our website and learn more about that affiliate program so you have the ability to be able to reap the benefits and not just join our wonderful sisterhood of girl bosses, but to also be able to make a little bit additional commission as well as we grow our network. So with that being said, let's jump right into today's episode. So boss fatigue, I will say, the first time I was really introduced to this topic, guys, I would say it was when I attended the first year of BYOB, which is Build Your Own Brand. And I remember the keynote speaker for the first evening was Jonathan Jackson, and he is the co-founder of Blavity. I got to tell you, there was this amazing man who was transparent in his journey of not only being able to tell people that he did not like who he became the more and more he was climbing up the ladder of success, but the fact that he really didn't know what it meant for him moving forward. This man delivered this keynote in a way that was captivating, celebratory, exciting, all at the same time. So he, being in true New York fashion, has his own DJ. And in having his own DJ, whatever he was saying as far as his story, kind of telling us about his journey from leaving LinkedIn to being able to work Blavity full time and what life looked like when he was working as a co-founder of Blavity, and where he was in his life and what that felt like for him as he was going through different parts of his life. It definitely was intermingled with songs that would be played by the DJ. I mean, to the point where he talked about how he was sitting on the subway one day and he realized he was really missing this part of his life. And all he could think of was, and the DJ goes ahead and plays LL Cool J's I Need Love. I mean, literally, we partied as this keynote spoke. But even though there was this sense of sensationalism and excitement and, music can always change the mood of a crowd. So although we had a really long day, but this was like the keynote because the keynote actually ended the day for us. It was the last speaker for the day. Oh my goodness. It was a little sad. And I don't necessarily think that it gave anyone in the room hope. I think the music probably masked the fact that it was kind of a sad story. I remember standing up and I remember asking him, where are you now? So you went on this journey. You're not really sure where we're going to go. You didn't like who you became, but so what's up now? And he very honestly said, I do not know. And that takes a lot of strength to be able to be so transparent. But I also appreciated his transparency because the reality is that we get really caught up in what this word success looks like for us. A lot of times it's based off of preconceived notions of what we think success is, because 9 times out of 10, it's built on this concept of a life we haven't lived yet. So in our minds, because we haven't experienced it yet, that means that that's going to be the best life ever. So when we get to this point where we can have this kind of house, make this kind of money, be able to drive this kind of car, there is this life that we believe that we're going to live that doesn't necessarily equal that or amount to that when we get there. And that was really the gist of his story. When we talk about boss fatigue, it's really the same thing. So in this case of Jonathan Jackson, one of the things he said was that his life was so busy because of the amount of work that it took for him to get to this level of success. And because he was so tired, because he was so burnt out, because he was always going from here to there, he realized that he was becoming a person that he did not necessarily like. And that's a real thing. I literally had this conversation about my career where, if you're in this space where you're constantly fighting and that's not intrinsically who you are, then who do you become? If you're constantly acting in a space that's outside of who you are to your core, then who do you become? Not saying, oh, who am I now? But meaning, who is this person? Because this is not you. This is not the person. And honestly, literally just this morning or just this afternoon, I was talking to my mom and my oldest daughter. My mom was picking up my youngest daughter, and my mom is usually the person I call Spaz Attack. That's her nickname. I feel like whenever something happens, she's on 100, even when I feel like it does not warrant 100 behavior. So everything that was happening in my household, I was the one that was on 100. I was the one that was completely crispy. I was the one that my oldest daughter would say, why does your face look like that? Why is your face scrouched up? Why do you look so displeased? My mom was why are you so angry? What's going on with you? Are you period? I'm what is going on with me? And I realized that is where stress has taken me. And I need to self-correct, right? I need to work on it. So this whole thing around boss fatigue has been something that I haven't only noticed in others and sharing their stories. I have most recently realized it in myself. And I've also realized in others with whom I lead. And so, when my team is dealing with boss fatigue or success exhaustion. And the reality is that, when you're getting to that point where you are not recognizing who you are because you are not operating within that space, it doesn't feel like success. It doesn't feel like you're operating as a boss. It doesn't at all. So the fact that it's called these things, when you get over it, you're oh yeah, I get why it's called that. But when you're in the thick of it, it doesn't feel like any of those things. So boss fatigue, success exhaustion, brilliance, burnout, you don't feel like that. You just feel like you're in a rut. You feel like you're in a rut and you can't get out of it. So let's talk about some of the things that contribute to this. And then we're going to talk about how you need to get on out of it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, let's first talk about your symptoms. Okay. I think that's the best way for us to start, actually, because of the fact that when you are in a space where you don't even know you're dealing with it, you're just kind of dealing with your everyday. And when your dysfunction becomes your function, sometimes it's harder for you to be knowledgeable enough to know that you're dealing with things like boss fatigue. Also, if you haven't done a lot of work of being aware of yourself, like if you're still in this like work in progress where you're trying to be more self-aware, child, you probably don't even realize when you're dealing with boss fatigue, because in your mind, you're just operating your business, or you're just trying to operate your business and work, or you're just trying to, get your idea off the ground. You're just thinking like this is just life. You have no idea at all that you are operating outside of where you should be operating. And it's time for you to change in how you operate in order for you to see different results. You're just stuck in this cycle thinking this is just life. And that could cause a whole nother, set of misery and things of that nature. But for those of you who do not know, or those of you who are like so caught up in what you're experiencing in life, and you may not know, let's talk about some of the symptoms that you may see. So the first thing you may identify with is feeling this sense of chronic fatigue, but not being able to ever get enough sleep. So what does that mean? That means that you're always up until the break of dawn, and it's not because you aren't sleepy, or it's definitely not because you're not sleepy. It's definitely not because you're not in the bed. It's because either your mind is racing, or you're always working on that next idea, and you're constantly in this state of go, go, go. So when you're in this state of go, 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 you're not really getting the rest required. And then what you're doing then is, you're probably not sleeping long, because, if you're a mom and you work a job, or if you're a mom and you have to get your kids up and you have to work, your actual career is your business full time, then guess what? You can't sleep in until 10 o'clock. You can't sleep in until, you want to sleep in. You got to get the kids ready for school. If you are even doing something where, you're homeschooling because your kids are remote, you got to get the kids breakfast and get them ready, get their computers all fired up, make sure their schoolwork's all done, depending on the ages, of course. I mean, when Gabby was in high school, that was not my concern. But Taylor being in kindergarten, that is my life every day. So when this happens and, you're up late at night, listen, you are losing out on really important rest time that's going to allow your mind to refresh and renew. So if you find that you aren't getting the right amount of sleep because there's just so much that needs to be done, that's definitely a symptom of boss fatigue. If you find that you are unable to be creative or innovative in your business, it could be that you're dealing with that boss fatigue. If you find that you just don't have the excitement you once had over your business because you're just kind of swimming in a whole bunch of crap, boss fatigue. So there's all these different things that can show symptoms of boss fatigue. Okay. Now, the things that contribute to this are also, high amounts of stress. Also, not being organized, not knowing how to organize your day, any kind of hit to the business that you've experienced that has completely drained you. So you're now at this point where you're just so exhausted, so tired, so over it, so drained that, even trying to bounce back and have this like rebound time is really hard for you. Those are all the things, or some of the things that can contribute to boss fatigue. Also, really fast growth. I know we talk about understanding that there are always these seasons within your business, but the truth of the matter is that some people have, this really awesome growth in their business. And the problem is that they have not had enough time to prepare for the growth, but they're like busy and moving forward, and it's just like they're trying to keep up because they're just growing so fast that they didn't have enough time to get used to each stage of their growth. They're just playing catch up. So that could, definitely contribute to boss fatigue. So let's talk about now, what are some of the solutions, or what are some of the things that you need to take into consideration when you are dealing with boss fatigue. So the first thing I want you to do is just understand that this is something you are going to experience. It's just like you cannot run away from it. Now, just because I'm telling you this is something that you're going to experience, especially when you get to the point of like certain levels of growing your business, that doesn't mean that you did something wrong or that you're doomed for failure. It just means that you need to make sure that you are absolutely agile enough to be able to hear or be aware of what's going on with your body, your business, your mind, your spirit, how you're reacting to things. Because also with business fatigue, you can also, one of the symptoms too is a really low emotional intelligence levels, which means that your ability to deal with highly stressful situations, conflict, are very bad, right? Like you suck at it because of the fact that you're so tired that, one of the things that people say is like stress makes you dumb. Which means that when you're just dealing with constant states of stress, you're stressing out your body, you're in a space now where you just can't think through solutions creatively or with innovation. You're just so drained. You just don't have it in you to do it. So when that's the case, and you're kind of seeing that you're responding to things really badly, and you're not being as inventive or innovative as you like to be, or creative as you like to be, and you really feel like you're in this rut, trust me, you do not have to search far to identify whether or not you're in this space, okay? Like literally, it because you're just like, oh, something's not right. This sucks, right? So when you're in this space, the first thing I need you guys to do, I really need you to do, is to unplug. I need you to unplug from everything. I need you to unplug from social media. I need you to unplug from, speaking and trying to get speaking engagements, or trying to sell something, or just, I need you to unplug. Now, here's the good thing about unplugging. Unplugging does not mean that I need you to go on a hiatus for a year. It doesn't even mean I need you to go on a hiatus for a month or even a week. Your unplugging could just be a day. But here's the reality. You know your business, you know your financial standing, you know what you can afford to step away from and what you can't afford to step away from. And more importantly, you know the level of severity of your boss fatigue. So if you're at a point where it's like you just kind of feel it coming on and you want to have a really quick rebound from this boss fatigue, and you want to be able to like snap back really quickly because you can't afford to like completely lose your crap and then try to get it back together, then, take a few days. But if you're in a space where you realize you've kind of been operating in this funky space for a while, and you realize that, holy crap, I need to really get my stuff together, you may need to go ahead and unplug for a week. You can unplug and go to a beautiful remote island, or you can just unplug and have a wonderful staycation at home. But nonetheless, make sure you are creating for yourself a place where you are at peace, a place where you are unplugging comfortably, and you are able to really do some inner work, because those are going to be your next steps, okay? Some inner work is going to be done here. So we just talked about the importance of you unplugging. So the next thing I need you to do is I really need you to spend some time to reevaluate what the definition of success means to you. Okay? We're going to try that one more time. Once you unplug, I really need you to reevaluate what the definition of success means to you. So, Here's why I need you to do this. Whatever you are doing when you are building your business, earlier I told you, you are probably working towards this life that you envision for yourself that you have not experienced yet, right? So, a perfect example. You are building your business so that you can be a millionaire. You are building your business so you can have maybe a better home. Maybe you are building your business so you can have a better car. Maybe you are building your business because you want some freedom and you want to be able to travel all over the world. And on top of these things, this is a life that you do not currently have today. And so in your mind, having these things or doing these things will allow you to be able to experience something that you feel you are missing at this moment in time. Okay, so maybe you feel that if you make $1 million, you finally get the opportunity to experience wealth. And 9 times out of 10, it is because you have not experienced wealth before in your life. And because you have not experienced it before, there is something in your mind that you were telling yourself that you are supposed to experience in life that is going to fill the void that you currently feel right now. Okay? So be mindful of that because that's a slippery slope. Perfect example. I remember working for my boss, who I love to this day. Everybody knows how I feel about Miss Darlene Williams. I remember working for her and telling her, when I make $100,000 a year, I just knew that I was going to be able to tell my husband that he could just go to school and become an architect. First of all, I don't even know why I picked architect. I think it was because I was heavy into coaching at the time and I was like trying to figure out what his definition of success was. I think at the time he wanted to be a builder, but in his mind he was like, wow, if I could like kind of have a redo. I think he had like mentioned architecture, but he kind of knew that being an architect was like pie in the sky, not something he could really do. It wasn't something that he thought, really could happen. So in my mind, I was like, but if I made $100,000 a year, I'd be able to take over all the household and I'd be able to then let him go to school where he wouldn't have to pay for anything and he could just kind of follow his dreams. Because Lord knows, I don't just try to make dreams happen for the girl boss. I'll be trying to make everybody's dream happen in my household. So that was the goal. And my boss laughed and she said, girl, when you get to that point, you are going to see that it is not exactly what you thought it was going to be, and you're not going to be ready to pay for a college education, meaning my husband's college education, and hold down the household all by yourself. Like, you're going to need something else to come in because it's not exactly what you think. And if you don't make $100,000, you're thinking to yourself, you don't know what you're talking about because I'm going to make it work with $100,000. Child, got to 6 figures, and I was like, oh, okay. I see what you mean. My life literally looks the same. I live in the same house. I drive the same car. I do pay for someone to go to college. It's just my oldest daughter. Thankfully, my husband does run his own business. But guess what? That business is financially thriving. It allows him to make more money than when he was, working his 9 to 5. So it's not like I made 6 figures and all of a sudden I was like, oh, we're going to do this. Like, it literally was years after making that salary that we were even able to say, okay, if you want to leave your job, could you? But also one of my questions was, so what does that mean for me financially? Like, am I about to be impacted? And his answer was no. His answer was, you will not be financially impacted by this decision that I make. Oh, okay, cool. Then go ahead and take your lead. So I had this life in my mind of what life would be if I made X amount of dollars because I had not experienced it before. And I thought that it was going to be filled with all of the answers and the solutions to my life until I made it and realized, okay, it's not everything is cracked up to be. But it's so much easier to say that when you haven't lived it yet. So if you are building this business and your goal, let's say your goal, because everybody shoots to be a millionaire, but let's just say you shoot to make $50,000 with your business, because let's just be honest, the numbers are telling us that on average, African American women are making $21.4 thousand dollars with their businesses. That does not mean all of them are doing that. It says on average, it means some are making more, some are making way less. Okay. And then on average, our Latina sisters are making, I think, 51.4. And don't quote me on that. I used to know the numbers like the back of my hand. I don't anymore, but it's definitely in the 50s. And I believe it is 51 point something, or 51. So let's just say your goal is to make $50 additional $1,000 with your brand, on top of you working for, let's say, within the first 5 years of you being in business. Let's just say that's the goal. Okay. So if that's the goal, how do you get there? What does it take for you to get there? And you got to really think about it. So it's going to be a lot of long nights, juggling, your job and your business. You're probably at a point where you have employees and you got to manage that piece of it. So really think about it. And when you made that goal, what is it that you thought was going to happen in your life that was going to allow you, once you made this additional $50,000 a year? And maybe you did think about a car. Maybe you did think about all this. But once you get there, I want you to reevaluate. What does success really mean for me? Now, I can share what success means for me, right? Success means for me financial independence, number one, right? Like that's something that I am interested in, which means making sure that my debt's paid, credit's great, and I'm able to pay for things that pop up in life that are emergency. That's really for me my goals in life. And also too, like, yes, I would be lying if I told you that there's not a particular car that is somewhere in my head of like what I would love to get. But when I think of success, I think of, a brick and mortar of a business that I can pass on to my children. Like that's something that's really important to me. I am aware that I'd be paying overhead and there's bills that come with that, but there is a desire for me to give a brick and mortar to my children. That's what success looks like for me. Now, at one point in time, success used to look like me being a millionaire. That was the goal. That's what I was working towards. But I realized that in the more I kept working it, it's not like that's not what's important to me. Like, okay, you make $1 million, then what? What's important to me is what the legacy of Prestige will be. What's important to me is, am I helping people build better businesses? So if I can focus on that, it allows me to do two things. Focus on my craft, make sure I'm always creating solutions that will allow women to build really effective businesses, as well as making sure I'm constantly asking myself, what am I creating that is tangible that I can give to my oldest child? Like that's very important to me, right? But that took a lot of conversations with self the more I began to experience more success with my brand, because my company went through different seasons and I had to have those conversations. So when you get to the point of your career within your business where you're like, okay, I'm over this, ask yourself, what does success mean to you? Now, if success looks like the accumulation of a whole bunch of material things, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more deep with yourself and rethink that. Because then all you become is this person that's just extremely materialistic. And then you're going to become even more and more a slave to being able to sustain those tangible things like the car, the bigger house, the shoes, the clothes. And you may find yourself becoming more and more and more fatigued. You may find yourself now having increase in health issues. You may find that you may not live this life very long to experience these material things you want. Because guess what you can't do? You can't take it with you. You can't take it. Right? So I'm not saying don't have goals. I'm not saying not to buy yourself that nice handbag when you hit a really awesome milestone and you want to celebrate. I'm not saying you don't deserve those nice shoes. What I'm saying is, when you get to the point where you are completely burnt out, ask yourself, what is the foundation that you've built your dreams upon? And if the foundation of what you built your dreams upon are built on just things, just built on just materialistic things, ask yourself, are you willing to continue to grind yourself to the core just for those things? Ask yourself that. Because if the answer is, but I have to, because that's usually what happens when we start acquiring all of these materialistic things, and then those things become the very definition of who we are, how successful we are, then what ends up happening is that everything you're doing with your business and everything you're doing with your time and everything you're doing with your brand has nothing to do with, and I'm going to go ahead and speak it, has nothing to do with the relationship with you and God and what he has placed in your lap and what he has said you are supposed to do with your purpose. Now it's just based off of other people's approval of you, other people's perception of you. And then to think that you are willing to grind yourself to nothing, to being tired, to having high blood pressure, to having probably not really meaningful relationships, all because all you're focusing on are those material things. You got to rethink what you're doing here. Like, it's crazy, right? But it happens. So once you're done unplugging, spend some time really evaluating, what does success mean to you? Now, if I go back to the initial example I used, which was Jonathan Jackson, who is the co-founder of Blavity, the thing is once he got to the point where he had to say, like, I don't really like who you are, brother. Like, I'm not really feeling you, bro. Like, nope. He left. He left Blavity because he no longer liked who he was. And he also realized in order for him to keep going to the next level, he had to sustain this personality, these characteristics, this lifestyle that he did not like. So there's some really tough decisions that sometimes come out of whether or not you want to when you begin to redefine success. The cool thing about this is that at one point, his definition of success looks like something that he's already accomplished and he can check that off his list. Him leaving Blavity is not necessarily him failing. It just means that he's been there, done that. I look at Alexa Wolf, who is the founder of Boss Babe. She hired a CEO to run Boss Babe, take it to 1 million followers. It was actually someone who went through the Boss Babe Academy that she loved, and that's who she hired to run it, so that now Alexa could live her fabulous life doing things that she absolutely loves. So when you think of the Boss Babe aesthetic, everything is like Cali fabulous, which is hilarious because I think Alexa's from New York, but everything's like Cali fabulous. There's like this whole aesthetic to the brand, soft pinks and black and, beautiful looking sweets. I think they were doing like a questions thing with the new CEO, and she was like in this beautiful bedroom that you could tell was probably like a suite somewhere in like Napa or Lord, who knows. But you can see the aesthetic is really all glam. When you look at Alexa Wolf's aesthetic for her brand, which is Alexa Wolf, everything is clean. Like I even think like her website is like a picture of her, but it's like black and white. Everything you get from her is like peace, like clean, peace, joy. So she still owns Boss Babe. Someone is paid to run Boss Babe, but now Alexa created for her, once she achieved this goal of building this network of women who were interested in building their businesses. Now she's in a space where she is so happy that she can just now focus on what she loves, because she got a chance to say, okay, now what does success look like to me now? So now success isn't to create this aesthetic of fabulous. It's about experiencing a life that really allows her to experience joy. So don't be afraid to, if it calls for you to walk away from something, one, you don't have to walk away 100% like Jonathan Jackson did. Two, it doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean failure. It means you've accomplished a thing in your life and now you just want to be able to enjoy the next chapter of your life. All right. So once you're able to really get to the point where you're reevaluating what the definition of success looks like for you, the next thing I want you to do is identify what needs course correction. All right. So what's course correction? Course correction is literally self-explanatory. You are currently on a course in your life, in your business, building your brand, and you have veered off course, meaning this one thing that you thought was going to bring you joy, this one thing that you thought was going to allow you to lead you to your purpose, this one thing that you thought was going to be everything that you wanted, this one thing that you swore was going to solve all of your financial problems is not necessarily doing just that. So you find that you are now off the path. You are off the course of joy. You are off the course of happiness. So now what do? You need to course correct. And you know how to do that now. Why? Because you've taken the time to reevaluate the definition of what success means to you. So course correction is going to require you to not just identify it, but take some action steps. I would say for many of you, it's not going to be walking away from your business. And for many of you, it is not going to be even, hiring someone else to run your business. I would say for most of you, it's going to be realizing there are things in your life that are really important that you need to make room for. And you got to ask yourself, how do I find the room? So now you may find that I love it. I have a friend that talks about her non-negotiables. So her non-negotiables are Friday nights. She does not do any events, no speaking events, no workshops, no nothing, because Friday nights are for her business for her family. And so that is her non-negotiable, because she realized that when her daughter had asked her, like, oh my gosh, when are you going to make time for me? That she was doing so much time of her business that she was not focusing on the thing that she really, truly loves, which is her family. And so for her, success isn't just by way of the business. It is by way of all things that are in her life, all things that encompass her life. So after identifying that, she had to incorporate things in her life that were going to allow for her to have more time with her family. For some of you, that may mean things like, yes, instituting non-negotiables, but also automating parts of your business. Automating parts of your business should be that's a must once you get to a certain part of your business. Yes, it's going to take some upfront work to set up the systems for yourself, but it's definitely going to be well worthwhile once these things kind of go into place. And a lot of us don't do it because we don't want to take the time to set up the systems. But also too, it's maybe hiring people because of the fact that now you just cannot handle taking on all the work that you do because of the fact that you're in a space where you just really need to focus on other parts of your business or your family or your health. So really think about things like that. So when I say identifying course correction, do not think that in that reevaluating that definition of success and it leads you to your action steps, that it's going to lead you to walk away. That's just examples of what other people have gone through. I really feel like for you, it's going to be more of how do I automate? How do I scale up? How do I find things that in my business that are not value add that I need to remove from what I'm doing to really help you get into the space where you are allowing for time. All right, whether it's time for family, time for yourself. And that leads us to our next step, which is self-care. And I'm going to tell you something. I always talk about David Shands because I am like a fan of David Shands. I think that the man is brilliant. I think that he gives, if you guys do not follow David Shands, which is Sleep is for Suckers on YouTube, you are really missing out on some really great information. But I got to tell y'all something, when you're 41 years old, like myself, and you are, trying to do all things and especially be a mom of active children, trying to also then, be a wife, maintain a household, run a business, lead, a remote team within an organization. When you're doing all of these different things, you need sleep. Okay? And what's so funny is that that's one of the things or symptoms that I know when my body's not right, when my mind's not right, when I'm going through boss fatigue. If I'm up late at night, I know something's wrong and I need to course correct. So, really do not think that all people who you deem as quote unquote successful people do not sleep. Do not believe for a moment that you do not need sleep. Do you know that studies actually show that we need 9 hours of sleep in order for us to be effective and alert and creative and innovative? So for those of you who are functioning off of 4 hours of sleep, for those of you who are functioning off of 5 hours of sleep, for those of you who are functioning off of less hours of sleep and think that, oh, it's because I'm grinding, let me tell you something. You literally are doing yourself, your family, your body, your health, your business, all a disservice. You are not grinding. You literally are merely surviving. You are not well rested enough to be able to deal with things like high stress situations. You always going to be on 10. You always going to misread a room. You always going to think that something's wrong. You're always going to be on the defensive. Because you know why? Because you're tired. You need sleep. You need to go to bed. You need a nap. You need a good old nap. Get you a cozy blanket and go to nap. Go take a nap. But if you are not sleeping and resting well, do you know what ends up happening over time? You've have abused your body that you truly are telling your body that dysfunction is normal and that this is the space that it needs to operate. Get out of that mode. Get out of that mode. And you need to institute self-care. Self-care is not just facials and bubble baths and massages. It is your health. It is your diet. It is the relationships that you allow to infiltrate your life. You know why I say infiltrate? Because if you got a toxic relationship, then you have toxicity all up in your everything, in the fiber of your being. Which ultimately who you are personally impacts who you are as a boss. Because if you can't get with the right relationships and the right people and you can't do the right things or make smart decisions in your personal life, how do you think it's going to impact your boss life? So really think about self-care from an all-encompassing space. And maybe what we won't do is call it self-care, because what I don't like to do is use very trendy words that I feel like, everybody and their mama's using because everybody's on the self-care train. But I mean, it's wellness. It's health and wellness. It's take care of yourself, boss. Take care of your well-being. Your body is a temple, and it is absolutely important for you to take care of your body so that you're able to take care of every other aspect that's going on in your life. All right. So to just go over those 4 steps once more, the first thing I want you guys to do is to unplug. You get to determine how long you unplug, but you need to do it. Okay. So completely unplug. Number 2, I want you to redefine the definition of success for yourself, because we all know that the grass looks greener on the other side. So stop looking at the other side thinking that that is the solution to your problems or the solution to you being successful or others will finally view you as successful. Figure out, tap into yourself, pray, meditate, and really ask yourself, what is success? All right. Next, I want you to identify what you need to do from course correction. Is this a time where you need to hire staff? Is this a time where you need to automate more parts of your business? What is going on, boo? Figure it out. Create the action steps. You have the ability to do this. Now, let me tell you something. If you're someone who does not know how to identify the issues that are keeping you from being able to grow to the next level and you find yourself hitting a brick wall, and then as a result, you're kind of stuck in this boss fatigue state, please reach out to me. I would be so happy to help you. I do have one-on-one sessions called Success Strategy Sessions. It's just one session where we just get you unstuck. That's it. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know, because I'd love to help you. But definitely, I feel that most of you are in a space where you can kind of figure out those next steps for yourself. And then make sure you're taking care of yourself, making sure that you are embodying health and wellness in a way that's allowing you to do things like just have a better mind, body, and soul and spirit, where you're able to really function at a high level like you need to. All right, guys, I hope this has helped you. I hope you guys have a wonderful, awesome, and most of all, blessed evening. And most of all, take care of yourselves, because boss fatigue is real. You will burn out, and it happens when you get to like every next level, because the level in which or where you are right now, it takes a different muscle in order for you to operate at that level. And you may find that you're struggling because you're trying to do old tricks. You're trying to do all the things that it took for you to get there. But now that you're there and you got onto the new, you need a new bag of tools. You need a new team. You need a new power up. And so with that, you need to know and figure out what to do once you get there. But what you can't do is continue to operate in the ways that you had before. That's not going to work for you. So with that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful, awesome, and most of all, blessed evening. And I hope these gems have helped you. I hope that you can get out of your boss fatigue and really get reinvigorated, because, guys, we are about to head into 2021. And even though I feel like it's about to be a little bit more of the same, like we saw in 2020, I really do think that as we progress through 2021, we will have an opportunity to experience, a really awesome opportunity to continue to build financially thriving businesses. All right, guys, bye.